Pivoting series presented by One Cancer Place. My name is Gina Friedman Armstrong, and I'll be your host today. In this series, I'm talking with people who've been through some of the toughest moments you can even imagine. They'll share what got them through, those big turning points, the support that mattered most, and the lessons that they've learned along the way. It's all about how they turn those challenges into something bigger. Purpose, advocacy, change, or even just a new outlook on life. These stories are raw, they're real and inspiring, and they show what's possible when we face life's hardest moments head on. I'd like to give a big thank you to Guardant Health for their generous support of this program and for making these conversations possible. Today, I'd like to introduce Vanessa Ghigliotty, a stage 4 colon cancer survivor of 22 years. She's a patient advocate and patient navigator. Vanessa, I'm so happy to have you here to share your story, your pivoting story.
Thank you so much, Gina. I really, I think it's an honor to be here. I love everything that One Cancer Place is doing. So the fact that I get to be a very small part of it is really a big deal to me. So for me, like you said, I'm a 22-year stage 4 colon cancer survivor. Like we're going back over 2 decades. It was really crazy because I was a really young mom. I was only 17 years old when I gave birth to my son. And that in itself was very dramatic. I had my son at 17, and then I started college when I was 22, when you normally graduate, right? So I go through college, and then it's my senior year of college, and I was putting myself through private school, right? I graduated from Iona College in New Rochelle, New York. And I remember that whole senior year being so incredibly sick and not eating. I was in school full time. And then after school, I would pick up my son because I was a nanny. I would pick him up and then pick up the boy that I was babysitting. And then they would be on like the same little league and all that stuff. And, just so I could be with my son and be able to do homework and make money. And, you do what you have to do, you adjust, right? But meanwhile, like I would make the kids snacks and I would want to throw up from the smell. And whenever I did actually eat, I would go up like maybe 1 or 2 sizes because I would be so unbelievably bloated. And then I would never go to the bathroom. Like I would never have bowel movements. It would be like once a week, once every 2 weeks. And I remember I went to my doctor and I told her, I went to a family practice and I told my doctor what was going on. And she goes, Vanessa, you're graduating soon, right? And I'm like, yeah, in June. And she was just like, you need to relax. You're doing way too much. Maybe put off everything. I was actually going to start my LSAT classes in September because I was going to be a lawyer. I was like, that's it. I'm going to be a lawyer. It was right after 9/11 happened in New York City, and New York City shut down. And I was feeling so sick, I could not start my LSAT classes. I live in the uppermost part of Manhattan, on the border of Manhattan and the Bronx, right? And the city just, part of the city died and everything shut down. My body was shutting down and I didn't know it, but I attributed it to how everybody was feeling, the energy of New York City at that time in 2001. So October, I had a growth on my right side and I knew something is not okay. And I went to the doctor. My doctor was gone and a new doctor was there, but I don't know what kind of doctor he is. Well, I soon found out. He was very dismissive. And then I'm showing him this rock hard thing on my abdomen on my right side. And he's telling me, yeah, that's just gas. And I'm like, no, feel it. It hurts. And he goes, yeah, it hurts because it's gas, because you're overweight and you're not eating healthy. What do you expect? And I'm just like, in shock, like, how dare this doctor speak to me? And something is wrong with me. I'm kind of arguing with him and we're going back and forth and he's writing stuff down with his back to me. So you're acknowledging I'm in pain and you're not going to do anything about it. And you know what he told me? He goes, you obviously need a lot of attention. You should get yourself a boyfriend. I grabbed my stuff. I left the office, I go home, and I started to eat like a rabbit. I was just eating roughage. That's it. Green leafy vegetables, thinking, it's all my fault because I'm overweight and I don't eat healthy. And I went on this whole big health kick. And the healthier I ate, the more sick I got because my body couldn't handle it. So now let's fast forward from October of 2001 to April of 2002, and the growth on my right side is now rock hard, and it grew, and I'm unable to walk, and I'm
Oh.
not eating. I'm losing weight, and the scariest part was I couldn't walk and I'm freezing all the time. So my mother says, "That's it. That's it. I can't take this anymore. I'm taking you to the emergency room. We're going now." And we did. And they took me in immediately. My fever was almost at 104. And they did x-rays and they saw this big, huge, like, mass on my right side. And they said, "Oh my gosh, your appendix burst. And you're really lucky because it seems to have like this solid mass around it, which has protected you so you don't get septic or anything like that." And I'm
Mm-hmm.
there thinking, like, great. And already I have IV, like Tylenol and fluids because I was so super dehydrated. And now let's fast forward to me happy thinking, all right, I have appendicitis or something and they're going to get rid of it and I'm great. So when they went to go drain it, it was rock solid and the pain was unreal. I just knew something's wrong. And this is the hard part. My mom just lost her sister from metastatic breast cancer. My aunt was the first of so many in my mom's side of the family that died from cancer, and they all died really young. A lot of them got it under 40, and none
Mm-hmm.
of them survived. And it was a lot of breast, esophageal, like soft tissued cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one to have colon, and I was the only one under 30. And I know what happens when you die and how sick chemo gets you and how weak you get from multiple surgeries. So now I'm there, and all of this is going through my head, right? And I come out, and my parents are there because it was like already the next day after I was admitted. My parents are there, and my mom's like, "Why was it so long? What's going on?" I had the biopsy, I'm all bandaged, and I'm there. And it's almost a week later. I'm in my hospital room. Nobody's telling me anything that's going on. The doctor came in to do her rounds, and she came in with like all the other ones that were with her.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was like 7 of them in total. And they're doing the rounds like nothing. And they're like, "Okay, so this is patient Gigliotti and blah, blah, blah," going like just very clinical, very cold. And I'm sitting there and I go, "What's going on? I miss being home. I miss being with my son. I don't want to be here. It's almost like a week. What is going on?" She grabbed my knee and she goes, "Oh, they didn't tell you? You have cancer." She left, and every single one of the other doctors after her tapped my knee and said, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Okay, okay." And then it went, "Oh my God, I have cancer." And it was like, what? What? What am I going to do? My nurse, who got she was so amazing. She came in and she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I knew and I wanted to tell you and you weren't asking the questions and I couldn't tell you. I wasn't allowed to." And I was like, "What kind of cancer?" And she's like, "We think it's colon." And I'm like, "Butt cancer?" Like, I remember thinking, like, what isn't that old men? Don't old men get that? Like, I'm 28 years old. How do I have that? I said, "When my mom finds out that I have cancer, this is going to hit her. It's going to hit her hard." She just lost her sister. An hour later, my mom comes in. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and my mother's pissed. And I'm like laying in bed. I had already cried. I had already realized that if I die, my son will have no memory of who I am because I didn't love me. I hated me. I I hated me. I think I tolerated myself. But if you've ever really gone deep into your soul, if you've ever really had to fight for your life, you're editing your life, right? And I sat there editing my life and realized, like, why was I so hard on myself? Why didn't I appreciate myself? I had zero love for myself. I took
Mm-hmm.
no pictures. Why would I want to see myself when I didn't even love myself? My son is not going to know what I look like. and I'm going to be erased from his memory.
Mm.
This was in April. My son was 10 years old. It was a month before he turned 11. And I said, he's not going to remember who I am. My mother comes in angry, furious, right? And saying, what's going on? And this is ridiculous. And, da-da-da. And I'm like, Mom, calm down. I have to talk to you. And she's like ranting because I think she knew something was really wrong. I think she knew before I did. And I go, Mom, I have cancer. And my mother almost fell to the floor and I had to grab her. And she's, what? No. And she's like smacking and hitting the bed. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then she's holding me and she's like, no, I'm sorry. And we're like apologizing to each other because I have cancer. I think they're sending a surgeon up here later. You know, my mom and I calmed down, right? And through the calming down, I told her that before the surgeon came up, I told her that I am going to spend whatever time I have left on this earth taking 1,000,001 pictures. And I'm going to spend my time trying to love myself because I've been so unbelievably hard on me my whole life. That was a promise I made in that bed. The surgeon came. We did like emergency surgery the next day. And he said, you know, you might wake up with a bag, you might not. You're going to be cut from like here to here. And I'm like, okay. And at that point, I kind of was just like, whatever they said. So when I woke up from surgery, the scar wasn't as big as I thought it would be. But this was like my first major surgery, and it's in your abdominal area, which is your core. And you don't know how important that is. I'm waking up with tubes and all this stuff, and it hurts to breathe. It hurts so much to breathe. And, you know, you're not prepared. Nobody tells you how really serious this surgery is.
Mhm.
And I can't talk because I have a tube in my mouth. And a nurse passes by. So I grab her arm gently. I'm weak. I don't even have the strength. She smacks my hand away and says, how dare you touch me? And she got um the antiseptic, and then she's cleaning her arm in front of me. So now I'm hysterical crying. I'm still like drugged up from surgery, and I have a tube there, so I can't really. So
Oh,
whatever. She takes everything out. She's so nasty to me the whole time. And my mother comes in, and this woman, oh, hello, how are you? Oh, your daughter's here. She's so sweet. And in front of her, I'm telling my mother with my dry mouth, I'm like, Mom, she's a monster. Please get me into my room. Don't leave me alone with her. Oh, your daughter's being silly. Da, da, da. And my mother just turned and looked at her, and both of us ignored her. We didn't say anything, and that was it. But imagine how mean, how mean. So this hospital, once I was back in my room and recovering, the the surgeon came to see me, and he said, it's really bad in there. He said that the cancer that I had, it looks like it started on the right side on the bottom.
mhm,
It grew two ways. It was like this tumor right there on the bottom, like right where everything starts. So it went up this way and went in and out of my large and small intestine. Then the other side of the tumor ate up my appendix and my cecum, and then went into my right abdominal wall. And that was that big thing that I saw. He felt, the surgeon said, from the pathology reports and everything that they do right there when you're still in surgery,
mhm,
um, he said that he thought then that instead of growing up and out this way, it ate up the appendix first. And because it went to the appendix first, it caused my body to have what they call a jelly belly. It looks like a dead jellyfish that
mhm,
surrounds your tumor. But for me, it didn't just surround my tumor, it surrounded the whole outside of my intestines. So they tried to clean it up as much they could. I did ask him, I was like, if I only have one incision here, it feels like I'm cut everywhere inside. And he goes,
mhm.
you were. And that's when he said it was in and out of, it was like a roller coaster. And we had to cut up and piece you back together. And I said, well, oh, I thought I was gonna have a bag. And he tells me, you do know that you're so young, and I was scared to give you a bag. So he connected my large intestine directly to my small intestine, which
Mhm.
I guess was really great because I probably wouldn't have known at that time how to handle having an ostomy bag. I was already isolated because there was no One Cancer Place. There was no GI Cancers Alliance. There was no any of these orgs that are here now. So I did all of that on my own, all the support, all the advocacy. And boy, did I have to advocate for myself. Knew that I had to fight for myself. The oncologist came into my room. She saw the surgery report. She saw preliminary pathology, was what she had called it. And she said, I don't really know what to tell you because I don't think chemo is going to be effective at this point. I remember my heart dropping. She's like, well, I just think that you should get your affairs in order ASAP. And I go, okay. And I said, I have a son. And she goes,
Mhm.
yeah, get your affairs in order. And she goes, so we're going to make an appointment for you at my office. She goes, I don't really know um, exactly what's going to happen. We have to get all the final reports in. She goes, I have to meet up with other colleagues and we're going to discuss your case. And you'll come into my office and we'll discuss next steps. So when my mother came later, I had told her about it and she was like, you're not staying here. They're going to kill you here. You have to go to Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I'm like, they don't take my insurance. They don't take my insurance. There's no way. I could never even dream of going there. But my mother's like, no, your dad and I are paying for a second opinion. You're going. And I did. And I was the youngest person 22 years ago with metastatic colorectal cancer to walk in through the doors of MSK. So I was a huge, gigantic case study. And my oncologist pulled every string to get me in there and to get them to take me. And they did. And
Oh,
then I went home and I had to fight my health insurance. Every 3 months, I had to fight my health for the first year and a half that I was treated at MSK. I did get accepted into MSK, right? And my oncologist told me when he was telling me what he was going to do, he's like, look, you're really young. He goes, this cancer, boy, it's uh, it's really weird the way your cancer's presenting. Because then remember, whatever test they had then, they're testing me for genetics and
they were testing you for genetics at that
they
point?
automatically. It sounds like Charlie Brown when they're
Language,
talking to me.
yeah.
And everything they're saying, it's like wah wah wah. Because one, it's you, so your emotions are blocking your brain, right? There's just no, which is always so important. Why you should always bring someone with you to take notes. And then I remember him telling me, we're going to be super aggressive, but before we go for that surgery, I do want to give you, a couple of rounds of chemo. And I'm like, yeah, great. When are we going to start? And I was like, and what stage am I? And he goes, oh, you're stage 4. I was always in the hospital because I always had every single complication at MSK. So because cancer ate up my abdominal wall, the first major surgery that I had at MSK, I believe it was 3 months after treatment, right? And the first treatment was full fury, which is a irinotecan. I didn't do chemo well. I was so young. My cells turned over at a rapid rate. And
Mhm.
then, like right now, when you go to conferences, you're learning that they finally got it, that it doesn't matter if you're 80 or if you're 18, massive amounts of chemo does not get you to cure. It doesn't get you to NED,
Mhm.
right? It's everything else that goes along with it. So, people like myself, they dosed and threw everything at us. So we would get a lot of complications and a lot of issues because of the massive amounts of chemo. Of course, I learned later on, you just learn a lot of things later. And I never researched anything. When I was in treatment, because remember when I first went home from seeing the oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And I remember when he told me everything they're going to do and how aggressive they would be. And I said, well, I really, what choice do I have? And he stopped everything. I remember he looked at me, he goes, what do you mean, what choice do you have? That's your body. That's
Mhm.
your body. And if you don't want what I want to do, what I have planned, you don't have to do it. He goes, I'll make sure you stay at MSK and I'll send you to another oncologist. He goes, but this is what I'm going to do. And I want you to follow this, but you know, you don't have to. He goes, and if you want to go to a different hospital, I'll help you get into a different hospital. And I remember thinking, oh, and he goes, and if you don't want to fight at all, he goes, I'll make sure you're not in pain. And I'm just like, oh, and I know it seems so minuscule, but what he said, everything that had been taken away from me at that first hospital when I got, you know, when I got admitted through the emergency room, everything, I feel like they took all my power from me. And I was like this helpless little thing, right? He gave it all back to me.
Mhm.
I'm at MSK, and that oncologist saying that to me, that it is in my power, that I don't have to do anything, that I don't have to do what he wants. He gave me, without knowing the gift, he gave me my power back. Another woman came to sit next to me here and was like, "Oh, I heard you ladies talking." And then the three of us are there bonding. And I was like this counselor, like helping them to feel better, even though I felt like death, right? And I'm admitted, I go upstairs and I remember laying down, and this was my future ex-husband was there with me, right? And he was amazing when I was sick. And he said, and he goes, "I can't believe this. I can't again, I can't believe this. Why isn't anything easy? Why isn't this road easy for us?" And I remember saying, I remember I was crying. I cried so much. And I had to be really quiet because I didn't want my roommate to hear me, right? And I remember laying in that bed, and I remember so specifically I told him, I said, "I'm gonna make it through this. I know my life is no longer my own.
Mhm.
And I think I got called to do something else. And I am making a promise now that I will spend the rest of my life giving back." I had to go through every complication that you can, because I knew that I had to have enough experience to understand people and understand what they were talking about and where they were coming from. And I said, "That's why my road isn't easy. That's
Right.
why it's so hilly." And I said, "I'm grateful for it because I'm strong." And I remember I told him, more than being strong, I know me now. Cancer gave me me. Cancer helped me to love myself. Cancer freaking sucks. Cancer's horrific. But I went and took all the ugliness that cancer brings to you, and I turned around and brought beauty into my life. It
Yep.
gave me me. It gave me meaning. It made me realize, if I'm fighting so hard to be alive, it's because I must love myself. And if I love myself to want to be alive, and that's, I think, the most pivotal moment in my whole cancer journey, was realizing I was so sick and knew something was so seriously wrong. Yet I took care of my son and made sure he was okay. My care team was so amazing, and that was just part of what they did. So now we're all together, and they're like, "Vanessa, there's not one drop of cancer that we can find anywhere." And my CEA levels, like when I did have cancer, before the second surgery at MSK, um, my CEA levels were completely normal, and I had cancer inside of me. So, and it wasn't just a little cancer, it was a lot. So I never really relied on that. And I also think that's why I had to get scanned, I think, for a good 19 years. It was right before my 20th cancer anniversary that they were like, "Okay, you don't need scans anymore." And I was petrified, petrified. And so I was like, "Yeah, it's 2 years ago that they stopped my scans." It's because my CA levels just weren't really reliable. But you see, that's why I was so grateful for Erica, because Erica fought for medical innovation,
Mhm.
for, the right scan, right time. That was so relevant for me. But the PET scan showed that there was nothing anywhere. I went through my cancer treatment. I know it sounds so bad, but it was the dark ages of cancer, especially colon cancer, because 22 years ago, it was still an old man's disease. I'm there
Mhm.
at MSK, and the youngest person to me at that time they were in their mid 40s. And I'm not relating to anybody, not connecting with anyone. And never mind the fact that I talked to everybody, never mind the fact that the staff on every floor loved me, the nurses loved me, like, except the nurses that treated me, because with chemo, It was not good. I would start throwing up before the treatment. And there like, oh, Vanessa, you make me feel like I'm torturing you. And they would like fight, like, no, no, you give her the chemo. You give her the chemo this week. I felt so bad. They
So
would knock
did
me
it
out.
make you, did you feel alone because of that? I mean, did it make you feel alone because you felt like you were the only one?
I had such an amazing, amazing support. I mean, I had my mom, my dad, I had my brothers, I had my son, I had my niece, I had my friends, my cousins, my aunts, and it just wasn't it. They gave me so much love and support, but they didn't know. They didn't know. I mean, who had cancer at that time? Whoever had cancer in my family at that time, they were not alive. So I couldn't talk to them because they would understand.
Right.
And when I did MSK, when I finally like stopped treatment, is when it was right before I stopped treatment that I found the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And because American Cancer Society and the Gilda's Club, they were all about breast or
Mm.
prostate. Nobody discussed colon cancer. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted, it was like, what? Oh, how do you talk about such disgusting things? And it's like, it's not disgusting. It's the
Yeah.
same as everything else. Like, please. I felt so isolated. I felt like I wasn't supported. And when I would try to talk about colon cancer, people were so disgusted.
Mhm.
And it built a fire inside of me. And I said, oh, I will never shut up. I will never be quiet. I'm going to scream from the rooftops about colon cancer. I'm going to tell everybody I see on the street about colon cancer. And I'm most definitely going to talk about young colon cancer. So I did. And
Mm.
then I found the Alliance. And I remember saying, I found my people. I found my home. And then that's it, the advocacy. And then I joined the C5 in New York City, which is the citywide colorectal cancer control program. That's why I love all of these cancer organizations, all this fire that we have inside of us. They're utilizing that and they're turning us into an army of advocates because we are out here changing the face of cancer. I always tell everyone, share your story. Share,
Mhm.
share it again, share different aspects, put different spins to it. It is your story, you know how to tailor it. Whatever it is, share it.
Right.
Share it. And if you shared it once, it's not enough. You have to share it 1,000 times because you never know who you're going to reach. I have secondary and third cancer scares because of all the treatments. I've had other surgeries for other things. And I know it's because I've had so much chemo pumped into me. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
with all of that, I would not change it 1 minute of it because I made the most of it. And I came to terms with my death and I dealt with every aspect of my death. And I dealt with what my life would look like after I'm gone and no longer here, that it took away whatever loathing, self hatred, whatever fear I had of living, because I was afraid to live.
Mhm.
And and anyone who ever spends time with me knows that I live my life to the most and I make the most of every moment. And I know from experience that cancer gave me that I know how to look for the good in the crappy, right? Like, however bad things could be, I have to see what is the lesson here? What can I learn from this? What can I take from this? How could I turn this around to reinforce my belief that everything happens for a reason and everything is to make us better people, better humans? And for that, I will forever be grateful to cancer. And I will be forever grateful for the people cancer brought into my life and for those pivoting moments that I had that have made me who I am today. I
Mm.
I think my biggest come away is that I don't want anyone to have to be alone. I
Mhm.
don't want anyone to feel alone because I will tell you this, cancer is so isolating. And you could have 50 people around you who are giving you 1,000% support. You still feel so alone and so isolated, right? But there is help out there now. There's so much support for so many different kind of cancers now. There's so much support either in organizations or peer to peer.
Mm-hmm.
And if while you're going through it, if you're strong enough to give back, you should. And while you're going through your treatment, share your story. Because the most important thing as cancer thrivers and survivors, and even caregivers, is to share your story, because it's your stories that change policies, you change opinions.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. So,
Thank you for having me. Thank you for
thank
allowing me to share my story. And thank you for everything you're doing at One Cancer Place.
you.
I
Thank
think you
you.
guys rock.